The year was 1928, in the prelude to the world economic crisis of 1930, and where the National Socialist German Workers' Party had lost the general elections with 2.6% of the votes. An architect born in Regensburg, Germany, on April 2, 1885, graduated from the Technical University of Munich, named Herman Sörgel, presents a project that was too ambitious for the time, but that could have changed the entire world as we know it. The project was called Atlantropa, which consisted of an immense dam in the Strait of Gibraltar, which would have closed the Mediterranean Sea. The project consisted of the construction of an immense hydroelectric dam 35 kilometers long, which would have isolated the Mediterranean Sea from the Atlantic Ocean. This dam would have a flow of more than 88,000 cubic meters per second, allowing the production of at least 50,000 megawatts, which would have been enough to provide electricity to all of Europe and all of Africa, obviously, at that time, prior to the Second World. The dam would have included underground hydroelectric plants, as well as a set of canals and locks. These were to be marked on the Atlantic side by a tower more than 400 m high. To limit its height, the dam had been designed in the shape of an elbow so that it was as much as possible in shallow water areas. In fact, in this way only a 5-kilometer section would be located in an area of deeper water, instead of 12 kilometers, which is the width of the strait. This construction would have made it possible to limit the supply of water from the Mediterranean Sea, whose level would have decreased by 20%. This would have made it possible to gain 233,000 square kilometers of vacant land, which is almost the area of Romania, especially in North Africa. 2 railway lines were also planned, which would have made it possible to link Berlin, Rome, and Cape Town. The project also provided for the construction of a second, smaller dam between the Italian Boot, Sicily, and Tunisia. In this way, the Mediterranean would have been divided into 2 basins, the western one with a level of 100 m below normal, while the level of the eastern basin would have been less than 200 m. The dam located between these 2 basins would also allow the production of electrical energy, with a view to a long-term depletion of coal and oil resources. In this way, Europe would have found itself in possession of sufficient energy resources for its entire territory. Herman Sörgel had foreseen the production of electricity through African lakes. It would have been transmitted to Europe through 3 very high-voltage lines. The first would pass through the Strait of Gibraltar, the second would skirt the Mediterranean Sea through Egypt, Palestine, and Syria to enter Europe through the Black Sea and the Danube Valley. The third would be established through the laying of an underwater cable between North Africa and Italy through Sicily. Why was it not carried out? The Mediterranean Sea is assisted by the flow of several important rivers spread across Europe and Africa, but what provides it with the most flow is the Atlantic Ocean, so the construction of a dam in the Strait of Gibraltar would completely change the flora and fauna of the area, affecting the economy of several areas that were dedicated to fishing. Although it would have generated new areas, aimed mainly at livestock and agriculture. Before the first earthquake and break, we would have a flood whose rhythm could not contain anything. But not only that, shrinking the sea breaks the climatic balance, less water evaporating, less rain, more invasion of the Sahara, contrary to what would be expected. Sörgel wanted to solve this by flooding the Sahara with 2 or 3 artificial lakes of enormous size. He never planned any of this with precision, but even if the Sahara is below sea level, no, he was not going to be able to add much water to it. Let's say. Reasons why it was not built. One reason is that the project was too expensive and resource-intensive. Additionally, the project would have had a significant environmental impact on the region. The construction of a 35 kilometers long hydroelectric dam in the Strait of Gibraltar would have had an impact on the marine fauna and flora of the area. Furthermore, the drying up of the Mediterranean Sea would have had an impact on the biodiversity of the region, and would have led to the disappearance of almost all the cities and ports in that sea. Therefore, looking at the historical context, which Europe was recovering from the First World War from a social, economic, and political point of view. What needs did the project seek to cover? First, it was capable of providing electricity to all of Europe. Second, Sörgel became interested in urban planning and modern architecture, and became an advocate of international cooperation and world peace. He believed that the construction of large engineering projects could help unite nations and foster international cooperation. The project seen from our current date, although, with the technological advances that have occurred to date, one could even think that the production of electrical energy would be even greater, covering almost all of Europe's current consumption, that the project would have been extremely expensive, and many construction workers would probably have died due to its complexity. In the Strait of Gibraltar there is no connection between continents due to the particularity of the seabed in the area, and because any civil engineering construction becomes very difficult to carry out, causing any project to increase its cost. As for the architect Herman Sörgel, he ended up joining the German National Socialist Party, and none of his projects ended up being built. If you liked it, you can like and subscribe. We will see more projects like this, which were designed throughout history and have some interesting peculiarities. See you soon.